Let's look at some of the retrenchment issues here, some of the legal issues. We're joined now by Labour attorney from Moni Attorneys, Natasha Moni. Natasha, thanks for being with us. Given the way this is playing out very publicly, any comments on how the retrenchment process, maybe on the SABC's part, the protests on Labour's part, has been dealt with thus far?
Well, it seems as if the SABC has caught their employees by complete surprise. And when that happens, it goes to the meaningful consensus situation that was supposed to have occurred at the CCMA and obviously didn't. When I see some of the video footage of the complete and utter horror and shock and distaste for what the SABC had to do, it is quite clear that there is no meaningful consensus-seeking process here, and that perhaps instead of going to the court and fighting each other in terms of a strike, that perhaps they must actually sit down and start this process all over again. One of the most important things, Francis, is that when you ask when was my retrenchment contemplated, there has to be a specific date. And when I hear what specifically the CWU has done in terms of trying to consult with the SABC, is that the SABC didn't have a plan. And their plan was revised and revised continuously. The last time that they presented a plan, there was another document of about 120 pages, wherein the SABC has not responded to the CWU points that was taken against the plan. In terms of Bamau taking the SABC to court, that is correct. They obviously believe that they have not complied, the SABC has not complied with fair procedure. However, the SABC, Bamau and CWU consulted. They didn't consult with everybody, and that's quite clear, but they did consult, and that consulting time of 60 days ran out. I don't understand why the CCMA didn't get involved further, but then I can't speak for them.
Yeah. Well, one thing that seems pretty obvious to me is that however this consultation process unfolded, and it is going to be looked at by the courts, workers feel like they've been left out. And that's a difficult situation when you have workers pitted against management. Obviously, it's going to happen, but the extent to which it's happened, is that something SABC could have done much better? I mean, surely if a new structure is coming in, you can get a bit of buy-in, although is that very difficult because it's going to affect people's lives. But I've heard so many workers, so many staff members here sort of questioning the motives around this new structure, questioning the decision making. So it doesn't feel like it's got any understanding behind it at all.
Your consultation process must be joint, and it must be in an attempt to have consensus. There doesn't seem to have been any consensus here. In fact, from what I've read about the CWU, and it may have been for Bamau as well, they were consulting with the SABC before the SABC issued their notices of retrenchment. So it's quite strange that they were obtaining alternatives, viable alternatives that the unions tried to present to the SABC. But underneath all of that, they were just going to ambush the unions with a Section 189A facilitation letter. I do agree with you. It does sound, from the reactions of a lot of individuals that may not have been represented by the unions. But you know, Francis, if the writing is on the wall, and I think that in terms of SABC's finances, the writing has been on the wall for a long time, you have to look at your personal circumstances and you have to make a decision. The decision is that if you wait for the long haul, chances are you will be dismissed, and chances are you will only be dismissed for 1 week severance pay per year of service. If you believe that you are somebody who is going to be culled, then I would suggest that you start negotiating for a voluntary separation package, like Bamau and CWU will do when they see the writing on the wall for their members. At the moment, it looks as if the phase that you're going in is uncertain. And when I say this affects everybody in the newsroom, except for freelancers, which I find very, very strange, because that is the first thing that needs to go when you face retrenchment. SABC has done nothing to say, we're going to then stop the independent contracting or freelancing positions, and let's see or allow those people to try and the permanent employees to try and take their spot. I haven't heard that. But then I haven't seen these SABC plans. And Francis, I don't think that many of the employees have seen the plans going forward, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Looking at, so we've looked at SABC's side. Look, there are pitfalls for workers here as well. There will be a legal strike tomorrow. Warnings of a blackout. Like you said, there are still freelancers. We now know Bamawu is also going to be at work. If a blackout can't be achieved through workers striking legally, and it actually involves switching something off or stopping someone else from working, then that's a whole nother ball game, right?
Look, all is not lost, because you have Bamau's application in court that it's going to be heard on Friday. I agree with you. It seems very long. But it depends on who is available, and it also depends on the volume of information that judge needs to work with in the application. But I'm just worried, and I'm concerned because a couple of months ago, SAA workers embarked on a strike, and that was to really get the SAA to increase their salaries. This is not the same thing. However, SAA capitulated, gave the employees what they believed was what they wanted, but in the background, they went on under business rescue. Yeah. And I'm just a little afraid that the employees, in particular, maybe Mao and CWU, understand the dynamic, but I'm just afraid that people are not looking further than just striking or just making court applications. Yeah. It may just be a Pyrrhic victory for you, and that's what I'm concerned of. All
right, so good reality check. You're saying there is an underlying financial situation here that isn't going to go away very quickly. But finally, for workers, I guess what I'm getting at is they should be careful to be accused of sabotage or anything like that.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't believe that any person who holds themselves out to be a professional will and should conduct themselves. In fact, CWU has picketing rules. I believe that before you start to picket, that you understand those picketing rules completely, so that you don't fall foul of what you are doing. Because when you fall foul of what you are doing, and you've been an employee for 20 odd years, Francis, they can dismiss you for misconduct, and that is the difference of a 20-week severance package and a notice period. One more thing, Francis, please, if the SABC comes to an employee and says, here is a viable and reasonable alternative, don't look. I don't want to say don't look a horse gift in the mouth, because it's not. But you need to make a full application to this SABC as to why it is unfeasible and untenable for you to accept their reasonable alternative. Otherwise, you forgo your severance package. Right. Also, there is a Section 197, which is a transfer of a going concern in this mix as well. And I'm very concerned that the SABC hasn't foreseen the potential of an automatically unfair dismissal in retrenching those people that should be going across to the new employer. of some of the SABC's employees.
All right, Natasha Moni, thank you very much. Lots more to unpack. Maybe we'll chat to you as this plays out. That was Labour attorney Natasha Moni. And just a quick reminder, coming up in the next hour, Dear South Africa's Rob Hutchinson on their urgent application with the Pretoria High Court, asking it to declare the lockdown extension unlawful. Of course, there has been some concerns about that extension, although others would say it's for purely health, scientific reasons. We're seeing a surge in cases.